Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, March 3rd, 2022, and we're here for a work session. As always, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Tim, can you please take the lead?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
And today I have a brief announcement concerning EPCAL. I want to just provide you with a quick update on the status of negotiations relating to the sale of EPCAL. Dialogue and efforts to conclude the terms of the EPCAL transfer has begun, and we remain committed bringing this transaction to finalizing the transfer to the IDA. It is my desire, and I believe it's also the desire of the entire town board members, to get this property back on the tax rolls, to preserve the 1,000 acres forever, and to ensure the site becomes an industrial hub and the economic engine we know it can be. We will be awaiting until the close of business day today to see if CAT is committed to this effort. The intent of the recently outlined path forward involving the transfer of EPCAL to the IDA and thereafter a leaseback to the 555 Group enables both sides to move a path forward to closing and bypass what has proven to be an insurmountable bureaucracy and allows for a faster and more certain closing timeline. I remain hopeful that the details will be worked out today by the close of business day, and we move this property forward to benefit our entire town. Should this be the case, we will hold a public forum in the very near future, possibly on Tuesday, and Deputy Attorney Anne Marie Prudenti, who has been engaged in these deliberations, will be holding the forum, and we'll provide you with the details when we set the date. And moving forward, we have a long agenda today, and I want to move right into the first discussion, which is matters surrounding Dries Sepkio Manufacturers Outlet Center Special Permit and Site Plan Application of 209 Old Country Road, Riverhead, and it's located between the Tanger 1 and Tanger 2. And Berman is here with us today. Good morning.
Good morning,
Greg.
Madam Supervisor.
Greg is here today, and to move this discussion forward,
Yes.
please.
I believe we have someone, are you from Marty St. Lucy's office? All right. Marty couldn't be here, but he did send someone from his office to help answer some questions.
Good morning.
So, as he stated, we do have a special permit application to establish a 31,000 square foot, bless you, 31,000 square feet of manufacturer's outlet center retail space at a property located at 2009 Old Country Road. The parcel is somewhat unique in its shape. It has approximately 65 feet of frontage, which is somewhat of a flag lot on Old Country Road. The property then extends to the south, and the property is located, the bulk of it is between Tanger 1 and Tanger 2. Now, this application's had a long history. It had previously received approvals in the early 2000s, got special permits, got site plan approvals. For any facts of circumstances, building permits were issued, but they never actually constructed anything. So those approvals have since lapsed, and they're not vested, so they're here to basically reestablish those approvals and move forward. I did prepare a staff report. Now, one of the major concerns detailed in that report was access to the site. Due to the site's location between Tanger 1 and Tanger 2, there was a series of easements that were negotiated between the Tanger property owners and the owner of this property, which allowed for the construction of Tanger 2, because that driveway, which is parallel to Old Country Road that travels between Tanger 1 and Tanger 2, actually crosses this owner's property. So in order to establish Tanger 2, there was a complex series of easements and agreements that were put in place. Basically restricts access to this parcel, the current parcel we're looking at, from the north-south Tanger driveway. A previous version of the plan basically restricted access. The only way you'd be able to get into this site would be if you were traveling northbound on Tanger Drive. If you were traveling from Old Country Road to get to this site, you would have had to travel south on that road and make a U-turn into the site. Late last afternoon, Marty Sandlewski's office submitted a revised set of drawings, which is the set of drawings you currently have before you. They've revised that ingress into the site. They're now providing a left turning lane into the site, so if you're traveling from Old Country Road, you'd be able to come into the site, travel south on Tanger Drive, and there will be a left turn lane to enter that site. That was one of the major mitigating factors we had identified previously. It was basically, previously it was an unsafe turning situation, presented some safety issues. So they've submitted revised drawings. The one thing they need to do before this application moves forward, before we can consider making a secret determination, the owner of the Tanger properties needs to agree to this proposed configuration in writing. That's something that's been established back when Karen was reviewing this application in 2017. So as far as the mitigation of the traffic impacts, as long as Tanger agrees to it, I believe that that's been satisfied. They do have a, like I said, a left turning lane that's approximately 80 feet in length, so it should allow for approximately 4 cars to queue. The one thing that I'm not sure, and I would like to get the board's opinion on it, that intersection, it's kind of an interesting intersection. It's almost kind of like a 5-legged intersection. It comes out of Tanger 1. You've got Tanger Drive, and there's kind of multiple exits coming out of Tanger 1. So I'm not sure if a traffic signal would be warranted. I'd like to see if the board would require a traffic impact statement in order to analyze that, to see if there's any further mitigation required.
And now, so you're talking about the two lanes that exit to the west, right? When right?
If you, yes,
Yeah,
from
you're
Tanger
exiting
1
Tanger,
heading
yeah.
east, you've got the main driveway, then there's kind of a leg that comes off from the back of the buildings. So it's kind of, it would kind of be creating like a 5-way intersection a little bit. So it could be a little hairy, but I would like to see if the board would require a traffic impact statement on that.
Okay.
Was there a comment?
Yeah, it's a very tough intersection, and we definitely need a traffic.
Traffic impact statement?
Yes, and I don't know, how do you guys feel? I definitely am going to recommend that.
All right.
And it seems to be, in order to enter, you have to make this quick turn, and then make an immediate right, correct?
From which way? If you're coming, so if you're coming into the site, from your drawings, the left side of the page is heading north towards 58. So if you're
Right.
coming in from 58, you'd come in across the driveway, you'd come south on Tanger Drive, you would get into the left turning lane and then enter into the site.
Okay. Yeah, it seems complicated as far as traffic flow. And do we need approval from Tanger? Do they need approval from Tanger?
Well, so that's in the series of easement agreements. It's in the easement agreements that they need to agree in writing. So, you know, if the board would like to see a traffic impact statement, we'll get that. And then basically have Tanger sign off on this set of drawings in writing, allowing the application to move forward. That's not a town action. That's not something we have any control over. That was something that was negotiated between the 2 private landowners. So that's really for them to work out.
Just one question. So this is West Main Street right here?
This is Old Country Road. This is 58.
That's,
So you'd be coming in here, you'd be, say, coming in here, driving down here, and making
so
a
there's
left.
nothing happening.
No, there is no direct access to the site proposed from 58.
How old is this application, Greg?
So this application, in its earlier histories, dates back to 2003. There was a number of approvals back then. Again, I don't know what happened in 2003. Like I said, there were at some point foundation permits that were issued, so they did get special permit approval. They did get site plan approval. They were issued permits, but they never actually constructed anything.
And this is for retail, obviously.
Correct, it would be manufacturer's outlet center.
The easement back as 1995, though.
Yeah, so I mean, that easement has been long in place, long before this application was submitted to us, but, yeah, I mean, it has been floating around since 2003. It's kind of had a couple of ups and downs, but the applicant has been looking to move this forward, so. Getting Tanger to sign off on the proposed access is critical. It should not move forward without that, because again, that intersection, any proposed improvements there, any turning lanes would be considered traffic mitigation. So if Tanger is not going to agree to that, I don't see how the application would move forward.
Okay.
You know, in terms of the use, there's no question. I mean, it's right in the middle of an existing manufacturer's outlet center. It's a specially permitted use. That would be the appropriate location. Part of the property is located within the New York State DEC Wild Scenic Recreational Rivers area. The applicant has received a permit from the DEC for the proposed improvements. There is just a little inconsistency. The DEC permit stated that there was a 65-foot vegetative buffer on the south end of the property. Right now, the plans only show 60 feet. I'm not really sure how that inconsistency occurred, but the applicant either needs to revise the drawings to show that 65-foot buffer or modify their DEC permit. Beyond that, they are proposing water connection, sewer connection, and natural gas connection. Those would be tapped off of Old Country Road through that 65-foot flag lot. They would be installed under the main Tanger driveway in order to feed the site, so they will require approval from all of those agencies.
Greg, can you just clarify, when they did the agreement for Tanger many years ago, because Tanger's on either side of this, as an outlet agreement, was it like 70% had to be outlet, 30% retail? There was some type of agreement within there, but the only reason why I'm asking is that, was that done in a zoning and area, so does it overlap this area, or is that strictly agreement only made with Tanger and Tanger's property?
I would have to get a legal opinion on that. I mean, again, though the easements were extremely voluminous, I mean, there was a lot of work that was done on it. Back when Laura Calamita was here, she had written up a lot of reports on it. Is the question, are you asking if the question of the easement, does it somehow supersede the zoning? Is that kind
No,
of?
like Tanger was, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but was subject to specific, like, because it was an outlet center, like, you know, the merchandise that can be sold there, I believe 70% of it approximately had to be like discounted merchandise outlets.
Like a
or outlets,
specifically
yeah.
manufactured?
And it allowed like 30% to be, you know, non-discount, regular standard retail. That's how Office Max, I believe, fit in there, because they fell under that 30%. So the question is, does that affect this property, meaning being it's between, was that agreement just with Tanger, or was it a zoning, was it an area agreement, like this whole, you know, from 58 down to 25, was it a zoning agreement that may encompass this property?
I would have to get a legal opinion on that. I'm not sure if an easement would somehow supersede zoning. I mean,
I think it was just Tanger related, but I'm not positive that's going way back.
yeah, I mean, I can get clarification on that. I mean, the zoning of the property is manufacturer's outlet center, so I mean, that is essentially one of the only permitted uses in there. And there are criteria in terms of tenants that can go in and merchandise that they can sell. You know, that's really kind of a separate issue. I mean, Tanger does have a number of vacancies, you know, to now have another 31,000 square feet of manufacturer's outlet center. Not really sure that that's a question for SECRA. I mean, that really seems to be an issue for the tenant to work out. You know, is he going to be able to find manufacturers, outlet tenants to be able to go into these spaces when?
Especially when there's a decline in retail across the whole nation.
But also, does it take tenants from Tanger that want to sell more of their merchandise at regular price and move them into this, creating more vacant stores in Tanger? So why not move across the street if I can sell anything I want? It's not even across the street, it's in the center of the whole development.
I mean, I do understand the question. I mean, that is fundamental. You know, in terms of a special permit, I'll speak with the town attorney's office. I'll see if there's any questions, how we can incorporate that. I mean, when we look at a special permit, you know, it's kind of like the economy, the market economy kind of driving, you know, like another fast food restaurant, so to speak, on 58. You know, if it meets the special permit criteria is what we're looking at, not if the market supports the demand for the proposed use.
At one point in time, they were looking to put fast food in this particular location. Is that still part of this application?
I'm
Or is
not,
that a-
I'm not 100% sure if that was this parcel. I was under the impression that there was a desire to put fast food where on the eastern end of town, I think it's Tanger 3, where you've got that home decor store.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that could be.
I believe
think
that was.
that's where they had the pad for, in the middle of the parking lot, right?
Yeah.
So I just would like to talk about the retail and the fact that we're losing a lot of retail. And I'm sure this is, I guess, Jeff, the question for you, Greg, are we addressing this in the comp plan so that we don't allow these places, whether it's this new place or Tanger, to go out of business because they can't rent to retail or lease to retail?
Through the comp plan, we heard from Tanger to allow some diversification of uses within Tanger, but at the same time, we don't want Tanger being the one-stop shop all place, because then that will take away from the rest of the Route 58 corridor. I know that Tanger wanted, for example, to have a restaurant in the site. No, and a pad site for a fast food restaurant. No. We need to have, allow those other type of ancillary uses along Route 58 corridor, and not have just everybody go to Tanger and no place else.
So, so
It's a fine line.
we know retail is dying, right? So I'm going to give you an
It's
example.
readjusting.
This-
It's readjusting.
Well, you can call it readjusting, but, we can look, in Manhattan, we can look at all the vacancies up west. I don't want to go crazy on this, but you've got empty spaces that, and I'm just going to give an example. Maybe there could be a children's theater. It's not retail.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. More creative uses,
We're looking
you know,
for services
experiential
and medical
places.
facilities, that sort of thing.
Otherwise, you've got a large taxpayer who goes out of business, and then what?
We're looking at other things such as services, personal services. We're looking at things such as healthcare, recreation, indoor recreation,
Good.
things of that nature.
Okay. That gives even this new occupant, the opportunity to, if he has to morph, they can morph.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we just need to be a little bit more diverse, because there was a market back 20 years ago. It's obviously changed since then.
And it's changing rapidly
And
away
it's
from
chapping
it.
yes, absolutely,
Okay.
yep.
Hey, Greg, back to the permit at hand. This was not reviewed by the town attorney's office? Because this would have brought up red flags if it
It
had
had
been.
So it was previously reviewed. There is on page 4 and 5, and into 6, there is a pretty lengthy summary of the easement agreements.
Yeah.
Again, the easements haven't changed from when Karen was reviewing this, and it went back and forth, so,
I think a red flag would have come up in the review, that's all I'm saying.
yeah, to my knowledge, on my review of the file, there was nothing significant or something that would stop this project in its tracks, like I said, aside from Tanger agreeing in writing, which, again, that's not a town issue, that's an issue between two private landowners for easements that they had negotiated between themselves.
Thanks.
Great. Anything else? Well, thank you, Greg, and don't go anywhere. You're up for another discussion, and
Thank you.
next discussion, matters surrounding home professional special permit application for 265 Washington Avenue in South Jamesport. And again, Greg,
Thank
can
you.
you please
And I believe we
brief us
have
on
Brett
this
Kuhn.
matter? Thank you.
Yep. Brett Coons is the property owner. He is the applicant who has submitted this special permit application, which is seeking approval to establish a home occupation profession within an existing accessory building, which is allowed by special permit of the town board pursuant to Town Code 301-14B5. They're looking to establish a bread-making business. I believe it's called Jamesport Sourdough Company. In terms of secra, it is a type 2 action as it involves construction or expansion of an accessory non-residential structure with less than 4,000 square feet of floor area. The subject property is located at 265 Washington Avenue, which is approximately a 1-acre parcel on the west side of Washington Avenue in South Jamesport. The property is located in the RB40 zoning district. The property does have a single-family residence and an existing barn structure that was issued a letter of pre-existing use in March of 1994. Just a little backstory on the application. When the application initially came in, it was issued a denial to go to the zoning board because some of the proposed equipment within the bread-making area was not deemed to be customary household equipment, which is required by the town code in its home occupation section. So the applicant did go to the zoning board of appeals. The zoning board considered their application, and they did grant approval of they granted an interpretation. They imposed 6 conditions on the interpretation. One, that the home occupation may not be expanded beyond that which the applicant have described in the application and at a public hearing. That no coffee shall be roasted or sold in any accessory structure used for the home occupation. that no signage other than a small nameplate allowed pursuant to Chapter 301, Section 3 may be posted on the premises. Any signage on the premises, including traffic, direction, or business identifications, sandwich board shall not be permitted. Bread products may be delivered or picked up by appointment only. There shall be no open houses of the business, and then there shall be no on-site consumption by customers of any product produced on the premises. So the work is proposed in an existing approximately 1,600 square foot barn on the property. The applicant has submitted a floor plan which demonstrates that the area of the kitchen meets it's less below the 50% threshold in terms of the floor area, so it does meet that criteria. I did detail on the staff report the special permit criteria to be considered by the board. Nothing that would be significantly out of character for this. Small home occupation, which is allowed by code. The code actually specifically refers to home cooking. So they're looking to establish the bread-making business. One of the things is that they will need to get health department approval because they will have sinks and they will be using water in this facility, so they'll need to address that.
That's a question I have with the health department approval. Wouldn't you need commercial equipment as opposed to home-style equipment? As I'm reading here, some of the non-commercial equipment, mixing equipment, refrigeration, it's non-commercial in nature. Wouldn't the health department require commercial equipment?
Under the health department, you can get a home processing license and all the equipment, like the refrigerators, it's a standard refrigerator that we put stuff into. And so all that equipment should fall under the home processing license.
Okay, all right, wasn't aware of the home processing license, okay.
We are limited to a certain amount of products, which we fit under, and so we can't expand into anything outside of that, which is kind of
Okay.
good for the.
I see it's in a residential neighborhood. Were the neighbors made aware of the application, or is
So
there a process
they will
for
be
that?
mailed when the application does move to public hearing. There will be.
Not that I'd have a problem smelling bread every day.
That's-
Just perfect for me. but-
Me either.
I mean, that's why I didn't want to be, somewhat cheeky, but it says, anything that's going to produce odors, and I thought that was meant to, be interpreted as noxious odors. I mean, like you said, if there's delicious bread baking, it wouldn't bother me, but,
So we're actually talking of a bakery in a residential structure, in a residential neighborhood?
it would be a home occupation, a home cooking
Okay.
occupation, again, specifically referenced in the code. They would be baking bread. If a home occupation wanted to bake lasagnas or, any other food, home cooking is specifically referenced in the code. So yes, it's essentially bakery. Again, no on-site consumption. There's not going to be tables and chairs out there. It's not going to be like a destination where people can go and park and sit.
Yeah, it sounds like the ZBA had
The
that pretty
ZBA
much
did
wrapped
really
up,
kind of
yeah.
button that
No
up. in
sales
terms of-
on site.
Yeah,
Right.
good.
I know they kind of, I'll let the applicant speak, but during COVID, I know they would bake breads, people would come, they'd have it bagged up on their porch, people would come pick it up, so it's really not a high-traffic use or, something that would really be, noxious to the neighbors.
Okay.
To your question on, sorry, go ahead.
Now, do you live on that property? Is
We
that
do.
your house up front? So
Yes.
You're on your same property?
Yep.
Okay.
Unrelated, how old is your sourdough mix?
Well, we got it from one of our favorite bakeries in Seattle in 2015. I know they've had it for several years before that. I don't know how long.
It's
I need to ask
amazing
them.
how that whole process carries on and on and on, and
Yes, it travels with us.
Yeah.
We take it on vacation.
that's
and,
great,
Wow.
that's great.
And the question of neighbors, all of our direct neighbors did submit letters of support
Okay,
for the ZBA
good.
hearing, so they're aware
That
of
was
it.
my
Good.
only concern, is that there might be some backlash,
I think it's a
but
great
if
idea.
there is, please tell them that there might be some council people willing to buy their house. just
Standing
for
at the
proximity.
fence.
And we have reduced the pickups. It is still Saturday from 10 to 2, and we reduced that because we do have a table at the East End Market now.
Oh,
good.
So
okay,
that's
good.
actually reduced the amount, and really the only people that pick up are people within like 4 or 5 blocks that often walk to our
Sure.
location.
Are you doing any gluten-free products?
We've had a lot of requests. Not yet. We have a hard time kind of keeping up with what we're trying to do right now. I do think that the sourdough is actually very gluten tolerant. So we do actually have a lot of customers that are gluten-free that actually eat our bread because it doesn't impact their stomachs the same way that regular bread does.
Well, I've found that it depends on the flours you use. If you use imported flours from Italy or from Europe, people with gluten issues don't have an issue.
Yeah.
It's the American processed flours that have been so,
Processed flours and a
Yeah.
processed yeast.
yes,
Yeah.
that causes the issue, so.
Yeah.
But there is a huge market for gluten-free out there.
We'll try to come and see you Saturday at the farmer's market and try to sell.
Absolutely.
Sounds great.
I know you're there.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Great. Looking forward to seeing you.
All right, so in terms of moving the application forward, I have prepared a resolution. It is a type 2 action, so there's no further environmental review required, so there's a resolution that would classify it. Finish that up, they can then start working with the health department. Health department does need a secret determination, and there would be a resolution to schedule a public hearing on it. Whatever the date falls on it, I would have to check with the town clerk, schedule a public hearing, and move this thing forward.
Good.
Okay, perfect.
Good luck with it.
Love to
Good
hear
luck.
it.
Very much.
I love
Happy baking.
applications like this. I have a friend
Yeah.
who's baking in their house and starts out as a very small little upstart and then gets popular and they could grow out of their space. It's really a wonderful story. I wish you good luck.
Thank you very much.
Happy
Appreciate it.
baking.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Greg. Next up, we have our sewer superintendent, Michael Reichel. He's here to discuss matters surrounding bond authorization to fund plans and specifications for biosolids reuse plan. Good morning, Mike.
Everybody wants it.
Hey, how are you?
I know, I can't wait now to go.
That's great.
Hi.
Mike, how are you?
We
Long
have
time no
that,
see.
did
Keep
you
things
provide
quiet
that to
down there,
Devin
sir.
at all?
Yes,
Okay, so it's on the net? It's available?
this is just
Great.
an update to the
Thank you.
document that was sent out.
Okay.
The engineering design report.
That big,
Good
that
morning,
document?
Michael.
That one. Yeah, okay, thank you, Michael.
All good news.
Yeah.
So today, we are here to present to the board and request a bond authorization to move forward with the biosolids reuse program and sludge volume reduction. We've already prepared the facility plan, the mapping plan, and the engineering design report. The last engineering design report was done in April of 2021. And, since that time, we're able to move now forward with preparing the plans and specs. The project shows that the ever-increasing cost of sludge disposal, because the facilities are going farther and farther west. We started off disposing sludge at Youngs Avenue landfill. From there, it went to Brookhaven. From there, it went to Conestoga landfill in Pennsylvania. It did at one time go to Ohio, because that's where it was cheaper to dispose of it. So it's harder and harder to get rid of sludge, and the cost is going up more and more. We had a 10% increase this past year, and it's a 2-year contract, and I can only imagine that in 2 years, it's going to increase again. It's not going to go down. So what this is actually, it's a sludge volume reduction program, whereas the sludge is treated, and the way that it's treated, we're able to make the sludge drier, so you're disposing of less product. But in doing that, we're also stabilizing the sludge and bringing it to Class A biosolids, which is used for land application. It can be used on side farms, using container nurseries, tree nurseries, growers of flowers. It can be used on anything, even crops for human consumption, except for crops that are underground, such as potatoes and turnips and carrots and those sort of things. So that is the end product of what we're looking to do, is give this stuff away. And this is a couple years down the road that we would be doing this. This report identifies not giving it away. This report identifies us getting rid of the product the same way that we're getting rid of it right now, but just less volume by processing it in a different way. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Chris and to Tim.
Okay, so,
Yes.
can you just identify who the people are here for the public?
Sure.
Okay,
Hi, I'm Christopher Weiss with H2M Engineers and Architects out of Melville.
okay, welcome, good morning,
Good to see you again.
and,
Tim Nordberg, H2M Architects and Engineers as well.
okay, welcome and good morning.
H2M is the one who prepared all of the reports that are for this. So I'm going to let them take it over from here just to get into some of the details of the project.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good to see everybody. Okay, I'll let Tim go into the numbers since he mashed all the numbers and I don't want to mess any mashing up. Mike did a fantastic job of covering 90% of anything I would have liked to add. But I would like to point out that this project, as he points out, is a sludge reduction project because we're focusing on saving the cost. The future is the sludge cost, handling and hauling costs are going to go up. So this is a cost savings and a protection against cost increase project for sludge. You know, that's really what this whole envelope of project involves. And taking this to the Class A level, like he talked about, and the opportunities for different disposal, creates opportunities to get rid of sludge that there is no way we would have with our current system. So without doing this project, the potential of future opportunities to save money or to do any kind of reduction in savings or handling or hauling will not be available to us because it's only going to get harder and harder to get rid of. So it's very proactive, but it's creating opportunities that we would not have in the future if we did not do this project. So, this project.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Transportation costs are skyrocketing. Across every business model around the world. Price of a barrel of oil is up around 110.
Truck.
I mean, people are already instituting, transportation fees and,
Yep.
and things to mitigate some of the problems. This is not going away. This is a long-term problem, probably in perpetuity. This is a really creative solution to mitigate, to get rid of those transportation costs. And I think that's an honorable, theory to try to get rid of that. And especially if it can be used on the farms as a Class A biosolid. And Mike and I have spoken about this. I know that my connections and Bob's and all of us up here in the farm community would be really interested in something that could be used at a low cost, so if no cost, and could probably find an outlet for some of this material, just to say that right now.
Absolutely.
I think we could possibly have the greenest golf course in Indian Island between the water you provide for them after it's been treated and now the fertilizer part of it that you'll be coming. I'm sure that could be a possible use for it there also. Would it be available for residential use?
Yes, that's the idea, is to open it up to everyone and anyone who wants to take it, because you would be able to bring it home and put it in your
Right.
flower garden.
It is a safe product that you can handle. Resident and non-professional can handle the product.
Does it come with a
Essentially-
makeup, Mike, like a, typically a fertilizer would have nitrogen, phosphorus, and,
Right.
the breakdown of all of the analysis of all of the nutrients in it. Would this come with a,
This will have nutrients in it.
Yeah.
What the process does, it does a vector attraction reduction so that it eliminates flies, rodents coming in and, attracting those sort of things. It also does a volatile solids destruction, which takes out any contaminants that are in it that would be harmful to humans.
It's essentially Milorganite, right? That's what
Yeah.
we purchase at Home Depot and Lowe's for gardens and everything.
and
So
there's a
same
shortage
product
of it
you're
right now.
using.
Same product.
Is it?
Yeah, there is. I just talked to
Wow.
Chicks Agway, and they were saying they can't find Milorganite anywhere.
You're going to
Get
have
on
to
this,
hurry up.
get on this, guys.
You're going to have to go further and further to get it trucked in or to find it.
Right.
So Chris, there's no nitrates in this? Or are there nitrates in this?
Yeah, there's still
But-
nitrates.
but,
There's still
you know,
nitrates.
Minimal?
It's minimal. It's definitely minimal. it's lowered down to a degree, but it's there's still nitrates, there's still some ammonia in the product, but you need that.
Right, that's-
Those are
I
natural
get it.
elements.
That's absorbed by the plant, so
Correct.
just to be understood.
Yes.
And the amount that would be generated, because we're doing a volume reduction, we're not going to have a huge amount. I mean, we're not going to cover every sod farm in Riverhead and every grower. It's going to be a small amount, and I think that there will then be created a market for it. And I think at some point, people are going to be paying us to take it away and to use it, because it is a good product. And it's a soil conditioner, a soil amendment for moisture, for nutrients, for a lot of different things.
And you're not paying to ship it off island.
If you're not paying it,
reducing
you're
the
saving
end
exactly
quality,
right.
the end quantity is being reduced also.
Right.
So it's a win-win.
That's where it starts to double on itself.
Right.
Correct.
So
Absolutely
you're taking truck traffic off of the road,
Mhm.
you're reducing pollution by taking
Sure.
the trucks off the road, you're not filling up somebody else's landfill with our stuff.
Is there anybody else around looking into this or trying to do this, or?
There is a place upstate New York in Geneva. Remember we had talked the other day? I couldn't. It's
Yeah.
Geneva, and they're doing the same process, with the same process. And they have no problem getting rid of the material. They haven't landfilled anything. And they got into that same thing where one grower said, well, you know, I'll take your product. And then another grower said, no, wait, I want to take your product. And then they started to talk and say, okay, well, tell us how much you're going to pay us to take
And
it.
you also visited the plant, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great, thanks.
Yeah.
Is the process scalable? So, you know, when we set this up, right, is it gonna work when we're at a 1.5 million gallons
Yes.
of sludge?
It's
That's question one.
It's
Go ahead.
designed, it'll be designed for the full permitted and design capacity for the plant. So the amount of sludge that's going to be generated when we max out our flow, that's what it'll be designed for.
Second question is, do we have any opportunity to take in other people's sludge and process it? In other words, charge them for that while we're getting to that 1.5 million gallons?
That is something that's possible in the future, but I'm not sure you really want to be in that business. I think you pretty much want to take care of your own stuff right now. Not sure Riverhead wants to see more sludge trucks coming into Riverhead to dump on Riverhead. We have enough dumping on right there
The
already.
system is designed to be able to handle such a thing, but that is not the concept that
Understood.
the system was designed around. We definitely designed around not becoming a sludge central station, but to, protecting the costs of Riverhead and providing a product for the people of
And,
Riverhead.
Mike, what's the process for permitting? Do we need certain permits, where?
There's regulations in place, unlike the irrigation project where we had to create the regulations. There are regulations in place, and the process itself meets the regulatory requirements for land application and qualifies as Class A exceptional quality biosolids. If you have Class B biosolids, you're much tighter regulated because the waste isn't treated as well, the biosolids isn't treated as well. So there's a lot more restrictions on Class B than there is Class A. Again, Class A, once you generate it, you can distribute it, and there's no tracking, there's no manifest, there's none of that, because there's nothing to track for.
We would be reporting to the DEC, common testing requirements showing that we're meeting Class A, but that would be the end of the
Oh, wow.
reporting requirement.
That's a big hurdle, get through the DEC.
We've been there before,
We've been there
Oh, we've
before,
been
yes.
there.
And
and we'll be there again.
the nice part of these are known requirements rather than, creating requirements that we
Right,
didn't
yeah.
use for.
Okay.
Well, this is all cutting-edge stuff, so the DEC should love this.
They do like projects like this because you're reducing the amount of things that are going into a landfill.
Exactly.
There are grants that are available for this.
Right.
Speaking of the grants,
Wow, good.
What an entrance.
Good morning, Dawn.
It's Mike,
I can see through walls, I don't know.
Michael,
So Dawn's in the process of preparing a grant. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so you probably mentioned that we tried this once before. And, okay, so we had done, I think through, was it WIA? We did it?
It was
The last round?
we and EPG.
2 rounds ago? 2 rounds ago, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were unsuccessful in that grant application, but we are, you know, never relenting, and we know that sometimes it takes multiple attempts to get what you need, and so we're back for another round, and this is probably even a better program
This is a
for
different
this
grant.
grant,
Yeah.
right, so we were doing it through Clean Water before, now it's gonna be directly through like recycling and
Reuse.
you know, what's the?
Solid
really-
waste reduction.
Solid waste
Yes,
infrastructure.
and sustainability.
The previous grant applicant, we were kind of really skirting the outside edges of what that grant was focused on, which was really like energy savings and things like that. So we were saying, oh, we're taking trucks off the road, saving energy, saving.
It
So
was
we
a
were on
little
the
bit of-
outside edge of what they were
A little bit of
looking for.
a little bit of a stretch, but this one's right on the money, so, and Frank Messina in our office is in process working on it, provided the board's in favor of us doing it, because it's a rolling deadline, but, you know,
What are
it's
the numbers that are available?
complicated. I think it's 10.
It's 50, it's,
50% of the project up to $2 million. This is $10 million. so
It's
you
a
can
big
go for
project, though, but, you know,
Every 2 million helps.
So can we,
that would push this over the edge. I mean, we would, if we were to get the grant, there's no reason why we shouldn't do this, because we would be paying more money doing what we're doing as opposed to doing this project.
so that's all I want to do is talk math for just a second. So
Okay.
we got a $10 million project that could go down to $8 million. You currently pay about $650,000 to haul it away? What's about
Yes.
it?
Yep.
So if I can ask Bill Rothar for to bond
Bill, can you
$8
come
million for 20 years, what would we be paying out per year?
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. My calculations, I'm using a different interest rate. Their interest rate is 0.4% for EFC. That may be the current rates, what we bonded at, or what EFC is selling now. And I don't know that that's going to be the case. I don't know when this project's going to start.
Speak a
Just
little
get an
louder.
idea.
Okay. So
Thank you.
I always used 4% as an average. It's been lower. I can probably use something less than that. EFC has 2 different pools. Lately, they've been a 50% match. So if we're using 3.5%, it would be half of that. Their numbers are using 0.4%. I think that's a little aggressive, especially if we're not starting this project for a while. By the time we bond it, those numbers may be higher. So,
Well, the market changes every 6 months, so you can't go by, I mean, by the time you're gonna bond for this is how long? 6 months? We're not gonna-
it would be, we would typically bond, well, if we went through EFC, we would have to, they would give us a bond anticipation note or front us the money, and we would pay no interest during construction, and then when we bonded, it would be about 50% of the going rate. Now, their rate is different than ours because they sell a lot more bonds, so it's a little bit cheaper. I still don't see how it would be less than 1.5% by the time we did
So
this, because the rates are going up.
conservative figures, what do you think you would pay per year to bond $8 million?
And to be clear, it's not the town budget, it's coming out of the
Yeah,
sewer
right,
budget.
It's, I think it's simple math, it's gonna come out to, your payment's gonna be less than
So-
$650,000 a year.
20 years at 2% is 611,000.
So it's, in order, we do this and we save money, it's win-win overall, right, Michael? It's a
and
common
that's
sense mathematical approach, being conservative on that side.
And that's 10 million. Again, any grant we get, if it's $2 million, it's going to reduce that amount.
Goes down again.
So we had to try and run the numbers without any grants. There's no guarantee on anything.
So on the worst-case scenario, you're still gonna save us money.
Well, hopefully.
it's a good
That's the idea.
project just
Yeah.
overall, environmentally speaking,
It
is
is.
forward-thinking, just like you've always been in that realm, forward-thinking in environmental sustainability. So I think, you know, it makes sense for that reason on top of it. That's the icing on it.
And we don't have a crystal ball on the hauling costs as they're going up. So our conservative number here, 1.5% per year of the increase, I think is, you know, conservatively low. you know,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
because we only have one data point, you know, it was like that for the past bunch of years, and it just recently leapt up to 10%. The next bid higher than the 10% was another 8% above that, so where is it gonna go next year? That will give us more of a trend line. I'm hoping that we'll see where it's gonna go, but regulatory controls and everything that Frank spoke about just tell me that the haulers are gonna be looking for, they see the opportunity to raise the cost.
Yeah.
Plus, they keep moving it further and further away.
Yeah.
So we don't know
That's
if
the other
now the
thing.
next state's going to be South Carolina, and, you know, the hauling costs there are going to be a lot more money, or Alabama, because they're doing that also with garbage. And that's why those costs
that's
keep
true.
going up.
Sludge is a little bit harder than garbages because they can only take in a certain number of tons per day, because depending on the wetness of it, it can cause landslides, which it has, by overdoing the landfill with the sludge, and, you know, people have lost their lives and equipment and those sort of things. So they're regulated on the amount that they can bring in. Now, New York City hauls to those same landfills, and they're, you know, 300 million gallon a day plants. They're huge. So they're doing a lot of sludge also. And you know, if they start to cut back, again, we're going to have no place for the hauler to take it to.
This is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
it definitely is a proactive approach, and it's great to see you going down those lines, and thank you for your work.
And we're number 2 in the state to do this? No pun intended? This is good. Well, there's one plant in Geneva, right?
The second one.
Number 2 and number 2.
Michael, I really appreciate that you're on top of, you know, what's coming up in the future. I really am.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to specifically go over that math, because it is always a nerve-wracking when somebody says we're gonna bond, you know, $8 or $10 million, but for what we're already paying out, this makes economic sense altogether. And I've toured the facility with you. You're phenomenal, guys, what you do. I tell you, you guys are like everything from chemists and scientists and everything that's going on over there to get to where you're at. So it's an impressive facility, and I'm 100% behind you. I think this is even gonna just knock it out of the park.
Part of the process involves repurposing some of the tankage that we already have. So we're not going to come in and build all of this, you know, all this concrete and steel and everything else. There's tanks that aren't being used, there are tanks that are being used, and those are then going to be repiped and repurposed to accommodate this new thermophilic system.
Save money?
And save money, yeah, because if we had to build those tanks, forget it, it probably wouldn't make sense.
It makes the best use of your existing facility rather than adding more facilities to it.
Excellent.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Excellent.
So there's 2 things that I would need for the board, is the authorization to hold a public hearing to do the bond authorization for the project. The other would be a resolution to apply for the grant that Dawn's working on right now. I'll work with the attorneys for the district to do the resolution for the project, and
We can
And,
handle
You
that.
and
guys
for
do
the
the
hearing,
resolution
you
for
can
the
check with
grant.
Diane. Absolutely. Great, thank you.
I vote yes and yes.
Thank you, Tim, Chris,
Yep.
Michael, thank you.
Twice.
All right.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Sorry for the delay.
You're right on time.
And Dawn, and Bill, thank you.
Yes, Dawn?
Didn't do anything yet.
It's like
Until we get the money.
you came in right in on cue, I'm
Well,
right.
I know, it's a little bit of a crazy morning.
Okay, our next discussion item is matters surrounding proposed change to local chapter 263 rental dwelling units. And that would be Hubbard, Rothwell, Howard, and
That's
Downs.
251 should be the next one, the noise.
Okay, so we're gonna go into this one, right, the 263?
251
Well,
million.
251.
this is, I have it written down this way, so we can just reverse it, right?
Yeah,
It's
it
next.
doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
So I
was
have,
just going by
yeah,
what
I
was
had
on
it written
here.
down on here
Okay.
as, so we'll just go through it and reverse it.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna go to 263, and then we're gonna go to 251.
just went to get them.
Okay, I think they should have been here.
Well, because it went out of order, I think that's why he wasn't here.
Yeah, but he's in on the second one also, right? Yeah, Richie's in on both of them. Yeah. Hi, Rich. Hello. I think you in on both of the next discussions, right? Both of them?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good morning.
Which one are we starting with?
263.
263. Okay, so chapter 263 is sort of a broad revision. The impetus here is to better manage safety requirements for the rental properties in the town. So what this does is it requires, together with a rental permit application and with any subsequent renewal application, the landlord or property owner to provide proof of existing homeowners insurance for the structure. Additionally, we are adding life safety features for third floor occupancies. So anytime you have a three-floor dwelling that is, whether it's occupied as a single dwelling unit or whether it's multiple dwelling units in there, it's going to be required to have fire sprinkler systems on all levels, and there's going to be a requirement for a secondary means of emergency egress.
For clarification, Eric, 3 stories above
Above
ground?
grade, yes.
Okay, so
yes.
not including basement dwellings or
Correct.
anything like that?
Correct.
I think part of this discussion came about to the horrific fire tragedy that we had
Yeah.
right here in town. It's a 3-story building, and so we'll never know the answers, but could a secondary egress on the 3rd floor had made a difference in a structure like that? So putting safety first, that was one of our responses to that horrific tragedy, was to make sure that there would always be a secondary egress. So whether something is currently existing, they'll have to come into compliance to it. But in addition, setting up smoke detectors, fire alarm system, making certain that should there be smoke on a 3rd floor, that these fire alarm systems be integrated, so somebody on the 1st floor alarm would also be going off. So if somebody burns toast on the 3rd floor, 2nd floor and 1st floor are all notified at the same time. So that was one of the initial diving into this, was to make sure that fire safety and everything is a priority.
The home that burnt down did have a 3rd floor access, and unfortunately that was also burnt, and so I understand that. Concerning, how many 3-story homes do we have? Anyone have any idea? Do we?
The fire had a
Not off the
secondary
top of my
Yes,
head.
it had a
I'd have to-
secondary egress.
Yeah, I think that was the only one that I know of.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. There was, and apparently it was locked, from what but they did have it, but this is great to enhance it and making sure that it goes across all 3 floors. And we also know that possibly the fire alarms didn't work, so they have to be active. So whenever you do inspections, that should be one of the components of when you do rental permits, is to check for the fire.
And this in no way insinuates any wrongdoing, anything on that structure, right? It's
No, it
just, it
doesn't.
brings it into the light that, let's take a closer look at this and see, are we, in fact, is the town doing everything we can to ensure that a tragedy doesn't occur?
Well, and in furtherance of that, we're proposing to reduce the duration of our rental permits from 2 years to 1 year.
Yes.
And that will allow us more or less annual access to the rental dwelling units for the purposes of an inspection, including making sure that all fire safety systems are operational and working, and any other issues that could arise with obstructions to egress and things like that.
That's going to cause, create, I should say, a lot more work for code enforcement, and we're gonna need additional code enforcement personnel. But I think going through the numbers and setting up the permit rates, we've made it certain, through the help of Rich Downs, that by adjusting our permit rates, that would be able to cover the cost of potentially two future code enforcement officers to cover that, so.
It is, and that's why logistically, this is written so as the one-year duration will take effect beginning January 1, 2023. And we are also proposing an amendment to the fees being set separately by town board resolution. So after we go to a public hearing with this, and then if it moves on to adoption, we would also be presenting a schedule of fees to be adopted simultaneously.
How many rental permits we have out?
1,800.
We issue a year,
Almost 2,000.
2,000.
Should we take it a step further and require that all second-story rentals have a ladder or some kind of means of getting out, rather than just going to the third story?
I mean, it's an idea, but I think we'd be contradicting the state fire and building code. So what we did with this code change, although we made it a requirement to have sprinklers and second means of egress for third-story occupancies, it has to be in compliance with the New York State fire and building codes, so. So I don't think that they require that currently for the state fire code, for
Well-
second-story occupancies. It may be a requirement in third-story occupancies, but that's all gonna be incorporated in this code change that we did.
Yeah, so, because we went through code revision on this part of it, before we say we would add that requirement to second floor occupancies, I would want to run that by Andreas, because he provided a pretty good deal of input with respect to
Right.
what was put
No,
in
it's just
there.
a thought, because, I mean, second story or third story, if there's a fire on the first floor, it's tough to get out of the second story. So if you require in a rental unit for them to have a ladder or some kind of means of egress, I mean, even if the state code doesn't say it, there's no reason our code can't say it, I believe.
All right, well, if everyone would be in favor of that, I can speak with Andreas on that in the next
Okay.
couple days or something, and
Yeah.
then I would have any change like that, amending what you already have,
Right.
and it would be posted for the packet on Tuesday.
Our kids have those portable ladders, like.
Yeah,
in the
they
second
make
floor,
those
that-
throw-out
That connects to
ladders.
the windowsill and it
And
goes
that
out.
might satisfy the need for what Tim's speaking about.
And they're not terribly
No,
expensive,
No, I know.
Not at all.
No.
but for life-saving, makes a lot of sense.
Great. Great, guys.
Is that something we could still potentially add and yet schedule a public hearing?
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yes. And then one last piece on this, we're increasing the fines under this proposed revision. That's, and then also creating a second minor code violation, which would be failure to renew your rental permit timely. So if you have a rental permit, right now, as soon as it expires, if your property is still rented and you haven't filed your renewal, it's a violation. This provides, what was it, a 3-month window?
3 months.
3-month window, and within that 3-month window, after that, it's two, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a leniency window of 3 months, and then after that, it's a $250 violation as long as you file within, the next month.
So in the fourth month.
We've also incorporated like a registration process, so when you file your application and it's completed, you get a registration. And that's good for 90 days until you can get your inspection. So that allows us time to schedule inspections, or allows the landlord to schedule the inspections with the tenants, and they can potentially put somebody in the house and rent it with the registration.
So what does the increase consist of? You're going from what to what?
just to quickly go back, okay, so you have a 30-day window after the expiration of your permit that is sort of free to refile your renewal. After that, you have up to 120 days. It would be failure to renew your permit violation. And then after that 120 days, you would require a brand-new application. All right. And then with respect to the fees,
Fees originally were $300 for 2 year, and now we're looking at
are we talking about fines or fees?
fees.
Fees.
I didn't bring the fee schedule in. So we could talk.
Potentially, it was
Yeah.
about $300 for 2 years, and now we're looking at about $250 per year.
Yeah, we're exploring the options of doing it per bedroom instead of just a set fee of $300.
Which on an average, but we would just, during our meetings, we discussed an average rental, one bedroom is almost $2,000 a month, so a
Right.
$24,000 collection of $250 safety fee is a minimal cost to make sure that we're protecting lives.
Right.
Rich, when people do their registration, is there an online registration form, or if not, is that something we're looking at to make it easy for people?
It'd be a great idea. It is a great idea. We don't have it currently. I know the town of Brookhaven does that. We don't have that currently set up with us. But they can download the application online, but it still has to be submitted, mailed in and submitted.
So.
Or in person.
Right.
So can we look into that, have IT look into what Brookhaven is doing?
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Because if nothing has to be even if it has to be notarized, let's try and look into that. Because it makes it easy for people, right?
Sure does.
Oh, absolutely.
Rich, I'll say, and I'll ask my fellow board members, we discussed this and we understand, as we mentioned earlier, that this creates an enormous amount of more work for your department. But I would stand by that it also covers the cost for additional code enforcement officers. And I would be supportive to hire them to need, and that's part of the whole idea. The only way to accomplish this is by increasing your department.
Yeah.
And I stand by that, and I hope that everybody else on the board as well would stand by that decision.
And I
It's the
did
only way
do
this
a-
can be implemented.
Yeah, I did do a cost analysis on inspections performed versus how many inspections, how many rentals we have. And, I'm willing to produce that to the board if they want.
Well,
Take a look
I'm
at
the
it.
budget officer, let's talk. Okay?
Yeah,
right, we will.
We need to
We will.
hammer out
But like-
numbers, we have to have Bill
Yeah.
Walter before we go, any further and see where we're going and.
Yeah,
This covers that.
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll set up a meeting with us.
absolutely.
Yeah, please share that with
Yeah,
Yep.
and then we can,
Yeah, our preliminary review of it indicates that we would be covered to hire an extra code enforcement officer, and logistically, one of the reasons that it would not take effect until the beginning of next year would be to make sure that we have appropriate staffing in place to follow
okay,
through
we'll
with this
discuss.
project.
Yeah, not only a code enforcement officer, but also clerical
Clerical.
to help with it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And let's get the online registration done, so that, you know what I mean? So people aren't running in and out of here. It gives you a way to create an immediate database with addresses, et cetera, you know what I mean? And then it makes it really simple as opposed to a lot of handwork.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
And it's quicker.
Yeah.
It's
Money,
efficient.
money, 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 that's all it takes.
So
Well,
it does.
online
Yeah.
registration doesn't take much at all,
One of the only issues with that would be the additional documentation that's required to be submitted with a new application. So they'd have to gather up all their COs, surveys, deeds, all of that, and scan it and submit it. I mean, it would only be additional work for the applicant, not necessarily code enforcement.
Exactly, and then it just
It's
ends up
easier.
in a folder at your desk, and you open it all up, right?
And you can just scan it
Yeah.
online. it's
Otherwise,
all
you're
there.
scanning it and you're creating it, and we don't need, let's be more efficient here, and,
Correct.
okay.
Yep. We'll definitely look into it with IT and see what, maybe they can reach out to Brookhaven and see how they do it.
Yeah, and stop by sometime and just, let's look through it together, okay?
Sure.
Show me the thing on heart,
Absolutely.
and what you like and don't like about it.
Okay, that's it. Moving forward, our fourth discussion today is on chapter 251 concerning noise, public nuisances, and public maintenance. And who wants to take the lead on this? Rich?
I'll take the lead.
Go ahead.
All right, so it came to my attention that
we had an existing defined term that was entitled noise pollution. And it was not mentioned anywhere else in the preceding chapter. So that was a little problematic. Usually when you have a defined term in your ordinance, it's usually mentioned somewhere in the chapter. So it was not, and it's a good term. This could have been an oversight, and the revision was done to recognize this existing term and fully utilize it as an enforceable term, which is what we want. So the term is noise pollution. So to correct this, we have added the term in ordinance where it is a usable term from a violation standpoint. Okay. In addition, and after further reviewing the definition of noise pollution, there was a specific reference relating to sound being plainly audible. So that was sort of a subjective term in our ordinance, which I felt we needed to define. So we looked at some other towns' codes with relation to the term plainly audible, and we incorporated one into our noise ordinance to reflect that. There was also a set distance of 50 feet whereby a plainly audible sound at a distance would be violating the condition of the term noise pollution. So I felt that was unrealistic, because every distance situation relating to plainly audible noise is different by nature. As it usually relates directly to a complainant's receiving property line. So a complainant who's complaining about a noise violation, they could be 300 feet away. However, our code in term for noise pollution said it would be a violation at 50. So we've changed some things in the noise ordinance to reflect a more realistic scenario. So
I don't see anything in here as far as, maybe I'm missing it, as far as decibel readings or any of that. Is it in here? I don't see it.
no, well, that's already existence. In
Oh, that's already
These are
existing.
only the changes.
Oh, okay.
that were made.
And Rich, this concerning the issue that we're having in Jamesport, at the manor, Jamesport Manor,
Yeah.
how does this affect them?
Well, it gives us another.
Can I just interrupt a second?
sure.
I think if something's under litigation, I'm not so sure we should be talking about it here in open forum.
Okay,
Just a
I mean, we could
suggestion
talk
from my
generally
part.
about general
In general.
tents that have probably, I think, right, audible sound. that's
If I were to
happening.
set
We
up
have-
a tent and play a DJ in
we
my
have it
backyard, what
across-
can you do about it?
A lot of wineries and things like that do this, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we have now, if you look at the definition of noise pollution, the way we added it to an enforceable section, we can now write that section based off of that definition.
So how does that relate to Frank's point? If the decibel reading is 20, which is way below the decibel reading of 80, decibel reading of 20 is noise pollution, right?
No. There's a separate section in the code that deals directly with decibel readings, okay? That's a noise study that can still be done. These are prohibited acts, so in other words, a noise study would not have to be done for an enforcement officer, a police officer, or an enforcement officer to issue a violation.
So I'm trying to understand the threshold, that's what I'm trying to understand. Like, somebody's playing their radio outside of their house and their neighbor says, this is noise pollution. I can hear this noise pollution.
Well, you don't want it to be subjective.
Go
but
under
you
the
want it-
definition here of unreasonable noise, and it lists 14 different things
Yeah.
that kind of create the threshold.
Yeah, so you'd have to go to the definition of unreasonable noise.
So this all sort of relates back to the concept of nuisance, right? Okay, so you have several different types of nuisance. You have visual nuisance, you have smell nuisance, and you have sound nuisance, right? Our code effectively deals with smell nuisance. We can write violations if someone's property is so offensively smelly that their neighbors find it to be unbearable. and we can write violations based on someone not maintaining their property such that it's overgrown on the sidewalks, causing obstructions, or is unsightly, is a nuisance in terms of attracting pests and rodents and things, all right? So what our code didn't necessarily provide for before with respect to noise was an effective means of writing violations for noise, right? So if someone called the police department at 10:30 at night and said, my neighbor down the street is having a party, it's very loud, I've asked them to turn it down and they're not listening, right? So now the police officer can go there, they can stand at the edge of that person's property, observe that, yes, that is unreasonable noise for 10:30 at night on a, Friday or whatever, I don't know, Sunday. So the officer can then write a violation based on that, rather than us having to conduct a full sound study to establish decibel levels, right? So it's what a reasonable person would find to be an unreasonable amount of noise.
So in essence, it eliminates the need for code enforcement to respond with a measuring device.
In certain instances.
And therefore, the police can respond and
Right.
address the matter then
So
and there.
there are certain instances where doing the full sound study is beneficial. So we had that issue behind Stop and Shop. That was an appropriate instance to conduct a full sound study. If someone is having a loud party or banging around in the garage at 3 in the morning with, I don't know,
Table saws,
yeah,
chainsaws.
whatever,
Right.
then this creates an avenue to provide neighbors, other members of the community with some form of redress where we don't have to say, well, listen, the best we can do is get someone out there in 2 days to do a sound study that's gonna take 2.5 hours.
Right, okay.
So this is, so 10 o'clock right now is the threshold, right, in our noise code? Or it's not?
There's an 8 PM threshold in our noise ordinance, which relates directly to sound readings, that the decibels go down to 50 decibels at night after 8 PM.
However,
So after 8 PM, anything over 50 decibels would considerably be a violation. Doing a sound study.
This
Yeah.
ordinance no longer requires decibel readings. This is if someone
Well,
is simply,
Yeah, this ordinance is going to include that definition of noise pollution that was sort of out there and never mentioned.
But you still have the other standards in place.
We still have all the other standards in place, including unreasonable noise, which was already in our code.
Got it, okay.
So. We also do anything with the fees?
This would go to a public hearing as well.
It would.
I think you're gonna get some kickback about this, honestly. I think it's subjective in nature, my personal opinion.
Well, it's only subjective to the point where an officer who's trained in noise, like myself, I took a course on it, it's only subjective to the point where you have to apply the definition guidelines reasonably.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
What's reasonable to you might be reasonable, not be reasonable to me.
But I'm trained in noise.
There you go. I'm just saying, I think you'll get some kickback on this. But
But unreasonable noise was already in our definition, it was already being applied as a prohibited act, either way. We just incorporating the definition of noise pollution.
well, like Eric was saying before about smell and other disturbances, I might happen to absolutely love Limburger cheese, but my neighbor might hate it.
You like that?
And then they make a complaint, and I have to file with the town to, take care of the complaint. I
That's
mean,
why we
I
have-
But
think,
that's why they made judges in court and,
well, you're bringing
you know,
people
it's-
to the court over maybe unreasonable thresholds.
But I understand what you're saying.
Right.
But Tim can attest to being a police officer. The unreasonable noise definition was always a writable offense. They did not have to do noise studies
Right.
for unreasonable noise.
Right.
We had a definition that was sitting in our code called noise pollution, which was a great definition. It differed from the definition of noise pollution, but there was no teeth to it. So we're just incorporating that definition.
I'll be interested to hear how it plays out.
by and far, the number of complaints are noise pollution that don't require decibel readings, by and far.
Right.
Stop and Shop was the example of where you would, it's a
Right.
constant ongoing battle, day after day, night after night. not somebody having a loud party or, somebody having a wedding in their backyard
Right.
and it's disturbing the neighbors. That's completely different.
Yeah, I don't think this is not geared towards, having a one-time party, a graduation party, and
But
we're gonna
recurring,
start- this is.
recurring issues.
This
yeah.
is, yeah, and that's part of why there's a list here of items, whether the noise is temporary or not, the duration and so forth. And so this is when we're going and ongoing, responding to the same places, the same complaints again and again, it gives our code enforcement officers more ability to act on those repetitive complaints.
Right, and there's always going to be a room for discretion to be applied by whatever officer is responding, For most of the time, it's going to be, visit to where the sound is coming from and say, hey, listen, I got a complaint about this. Can you, it seems like it is too loud, can you turn it down? And, you give that sort of opportunity, put them on notice, this is, what I would consider to be a violation, please turn it down, and then they leave, and then if they have to come back 45 minutes later or an hour later, then it's like, well, I warned you once, but now I'm gonna write you the ticket.
And so the other thing, I know we spoke earlier, one of the things I would like to see coming out of even the fire marshal's office is people that are doing consistent tents and outdoor music, that they come up with some sound mitigation, whether it's a sound wall. There are ways to do that. So I think we need to explore that to kind of help people on the other side who may be trying to do something, and see if they'll comply or not.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I think they make those sound fabrics now.
They do, they absolutely do. There's,
I mean, they should make the tents out of them.
well, this,
That'd be a great business.
yeah, that,
Just got yourself $1 billion idea.
Yeah.
All right. Great, thank you,
I
Rich.
guess we won't be seeing you anymore with the new
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
I think this is televised.
So,
You can move forward with the,
move forward public hearings on both
yes.
items? Okay, will do, thank you.
since they're
Thank you.
code,
Thanks.
Thank you.
since they're code, you might want to put them on the same date.
Yes,
That way,
yeah.
makes it easier for you instead of having, so make sure, because I know there's some public hearings that are being scheduled now, but put them on the same date.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Thank you both.
All right. Next up is BIDMA surrounding the 2022 schedule of events, and we have Christy Verity here and Steve Shorter from the Business Improvement District. Oh, Chris is not with.
Yeah, she couldn't come this
Oh, okay.
morning.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, how are you?
Good morning, Steve, how are you?
Good, good. Here's Mr. Wilson's
Do
schedule.
we have a copy of that that we put online?
Sure.
All right, give it to Devin, so, everything we hand
She got,
out.
I emailed it to her, so she can.
Okay, good. It'll be put online. Oh, it's done? Perfect, thank you, Devin.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of course. It's always good to see you. Have a lot of good projects.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Well,
I see that's pretty full here.
yeah, so it is going to look very similar to last year in regards to the actual events that we're looking to host. The biggest change that we're presenting, and just to be specific, these are Town of Riverhead and BID co-sponsored events that we are kind of focusing in on today. So first things first, the largest change that we're looking to do is with Alive on 25s. One of the considerations that we had after speaking to stakeholders as well as Riverhead PD is to move it over to Fridays for this year. Backtracking a little bit, when we first implemented this, and I met with the Patchogue Chamber with Alive After 5, and they really gave us the playbook. They had progressed, I think at that point, even 10 plus years into doing this. They initially started on Fridays, and then also started move it over to Thursdays once it hit a certain threshold with a number of attendees. When we kind of took over the playbook and decided not to reinvent the wheel, we switched over to right away to Thursdays. So the reason behind this for the event and the change is, obviously the event that we have with the fireworks is phenomenal. We get a ton of attendees. We feel by moving those over to Fridays, we'd be able to capitalize a little bit more on the weekend people that are coming in to the town. Hopefully extend that as well, get people from out of town to come and stay, and overall impact the attendance in a positive way for the other 3 events that usually trail a little bit behind the fireworks. This big change, obviously we went with the police, obviously, because if it's held on a Thursday, people are probably more apt to go home a little bit earlier because they have work the next day, or most people do. Moving on the Friday would hopefully get people to stay a little bit longer, stay in the restaurants a little bit longer, but that doesn't come without potential challenges. So for this year, we're proposing to do that on to Friday to try it out. In regards to 11/25, we're looking to maintain the event without the pens like we did for last year. That's something that we got some phenomenal positive feedback on. Additionally, we are providing any restaurants within the bid access to do table service on Main Street at no cost. That's something that we rolled out last year. We didn't get as much participation as we would like, but we would like the businesses to come out to add that aspect to the event. We're looking to grow on the kids zone as well. Depending on where we're at with the town square section, we would love to potentially utilize that space if at all possible. And that's pretty much it for Alive on 25. Any questions on the?
Steve, just on the cardboard boat race, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure, was the tide checked for that date?
Yes, so we
Because I
work
know
with,
that had been a problem.
we work with Cleat, yep, so we double check that,
Good,
so that
perfect.
does lend nicely. Or else I would not have had myself working the Alive on 25 and then cardboard boat race the next morning. That wouldn't be a preference, so yes, the tides kind of dictate that.
Good point,
Yes.
good point.
And
yeah.
concerning the holiday parade, I see that you added a rain date. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I know last year we were going back and forth, and 2 of the dates got rained out, and so that's great that you did that this year. We have a direction. And the fireworks, great idea. I can't tell you the last firework event you had, how many people were actually sitting in the middle of the street looking at the fireworks.
Watch it.
With
Yeah.
the kids.
Other side of the river, people sit and watch it. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and 11/25 was great, so putting that's a great synergy there.
Yeah.
And it encompasses all age groups, young, older people.
For the rain dates, we got some feedback from PD. They said from a scheduling standpoint, sometimes if we're hosting on Saturday, sometimes we would move it to Sunday. Logistically speaking, they said it's hard for scheduling wise. So that and for us as operators of the event, sometimes I know one year we had the Halloween Fest where it rained for 2 days straight, right? So it gives us a little bit more flexibility if we push that back. So with the direction of PD as well as our own experience, we try to put a little bit of distance there if we are going to utilize a rain date.
And Steve, do you want to talk about Oktoberfest and
Sure.
how successful it was?
Yeah, Oktoberfest was huge last year.
Huge.
So, we're looking to grow on that. We work obviously very closely with Reflections. So it started off as Oktoberfest and then moves into the Reflections Art in the Park event afterwards. So that is something that we're looking to put in place for this year. I will notate on the schedule itself, we're currently proposing on October 1st. That is the same day that they're doing the breast cancer walk. So the one thing that we're waiting to hear back is they utilize the pump house, they utilize setup. So will they be out in time to make that transition? If not, we would then look to do it on the 8th. So that's why I have both of those dates listed on there.
And you had food, you had a great band, and it was a great event, and I think it's going to be quite successful this year.
Yeah, I think so too. It was a phenomenal turnout. We had some great marketing dollars behind it with a grant, and we're looking to utilize some grant money for that as well to get the word out there for this year too. So if all goes well, I think that's going to be a phenomenal event.
Yeah, the fashion connoisseur of Frank Bayrod is phenomenal. Oktoberfest.
I think we need more lederhosen at the event. So. So Live on 25, Reflections, we're looking to continue Cardboard boat race is always a staple of the community. It's great to see. We get people from all over coming for the cardboard boat race. It's great to bring in people from outside the town to participate in that. Oktoberfest was phenomenal last year, and then the Halloween Fest was huge. We passed out a heck of a lot of candy this year, and then, or last year I should say, and then the holiday parade and bonfire with working with the Lions Club is always a win-win for everyone. So we had a huge slate of events scheduled for this year, and we're
And
looking
also,
forward to it.
the holiday parade, I think you issued or gave away record-breaking hot chocolate cups, correct?
We did. We went through a lot of hot chocolate. Yes, it was a great
I think it was like
turnout.
over 1,000 or
I think it was well over 1,000, yeah.
well over 1,000?
Yeah, that, the progression of that event, used to have the Lions Club, used to do the parade, and then the bid did the bonfire separately. And a couple years ago, we then joined together to make one event, which is nice. Everyone goes on Main Street for the parade, then they switch down to the bonfire, come see Santa, and it really has bumped up the numbers for both events.
Yes,
It's definitely a
very
good turnout.
successful.
Yeah,
All of these are a heck of a lot of fun,
yes.
Yeah.
really. And a good excuse for people to come out of their homes down to the downtown area and enjoy what Riverhead offers. Really,
Yeah.
great opportunity.
They've been, a lot of these, the torch has been passed for many, many years, and, are now a staple of the community. And, the events are great. It gets people to come see our downtown. It's not our only goal on the bid, and I've worked hard over the past few years to kind of broaden our scope as to what we want to focus on, but it still is a key piece to the bid and what we're doing and bringing people to downtown.
The Friday Night Alive 25 setup is going to be so successful. I think it's such a great idea to go to Friday nights. I think you're really going to be pleased with the outcome.
I hope so. I hope so. And even like some of the feedback with the restaurants, Saturday we wouldn't touch, right?
Right.
Because but still restaurants and businesses could use a little bit more help on a Friday. And working with PD, if people are going to stay open later, we're working with them to try to come with ways that they can have additional security as well. We want to make it where it's not a burden on PD as well,
Right.
and we want to be safe. So we're already taking steps to put that in place.
Well, knock on wood, they've all been very safe so
Yes.
far, and very, very, very few problems, and I wouldn't even call them problems.
It's also going to add possibly to Route 58, where people will go get something to eat or go shopping, and then we'll end Friday, with dinner. So I think it's going to be a great impact in the community.
I think so.
And I know
too.
you work very hard, Steve, and thank you. I love the diversity of these events that you're holding, and you're always very community-minded, and we're happy to have you.
Yeah,
in
I'm
town.
happy to be a part of it, and I thank Christy and even Brian's our bid
Yes.
ambassador. He's always downtown cleaning, so they're our key staff, and obviously the bid board as well, which is very supportive
Yes.
of all these things. And we're looking to grow and expand. We switched over to instead of looking at just the Riverhead bid, we had a big push on being downtown Riverhead, because not everyone knows what a bid is. We redid our logo to downtown Riverhead, redid the website with the goal of trying to get that as a one-stop shop for people to go for all things that are downtown, right? So Christy's been working with a lot of the bid businesses to get them to list whether they're having a live musician or something to the scale as a Live on 25. We want to try to be that one-stop shop where people know what's going on downtown. They can go to the downtownriverhead.org. Marketing is a big role in that, and branding too. So Christy and I were just having a conversation about continuing to build our brand for downtown Riverhead and work on putting in a promo video to highlight the people of downtown, the places of downtown, the activities, the events. So that's one thing that we have in our sights for this year that we want to put into place. So there's some exciting stuff going on.
Good. Good.
Keep it up, Steve.
Great stuff.
Right.
My favorite discussion today.
Any other
Wait,
questions?
you haven't heard Ray yet.
Oh, okay. That's why I'm saying it.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank you
Steve.
very much.
Have a great
Thanks,
day.
Thanks.
All right, so now we're going to move on to our last discussion item, which is matters surrounding repair, resurface of Stotsky Park tennis courts. And we have here with us our Recreation Director, Ray Coyne, and Jason and his assistant is also with us. Jordan, excuse me. Thank you very much, guys, for coming.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for hosting us.
Hi, Jordan.
Good morning.
Hey, Jordan.
We want to discuss the Statsky Park tennis courts and the situation we're currently in. As you're aware,
Did we
we're
get a
changing...
prior copy of this, Ray?
What's that?
Do we have a prior copy?
Yes, I sent it to
Okay, it's on
Devin
the
a
next
couple
part.
hours ago.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, as you're aware, we're changing over all our tennis courts to a multifaceted tennis/pickleball courts, like a multi-purpose court. James Ford is completed. Wading River Bayberry is about to get done. And now Statsky, our flagship park, was last on the list, and this is the situation we're in now, but our funds have depleted, so we're in a tough spot. Like I said last year, we pulled the tiles on these. The tiles are wearing down, and we pulled the tiles up. We were hoping just to resurface it. We're hoping it wasn't as bad. It's like pulling it, what's behind door number one, and it was the worst case scenario. And if you can see the courts that, this is just yesterday, this is the current state of the courts, the courts now, and we discussed this and we had Land Tech look them over. They gave us an estimate for this and the basketball court, which is right next to it, to resurface similar to what we're doing at Bayberry Park. But my dilemma now is the funding, and I'm coming to the board to find a solution due to the fact that it is our flagship park.
Did we discuss this?
We've
Bill?
just,
Yeah, it's,
It's been on the list for years
yeah.
to be done, but it wasn't as a priority, I think, as much as it is now.
So,
Once
Good
those
morning, Bill.
grids were lifted, it really exposed what the real issues are.
So we have had this, Ray has a schedule of all of the projects
Yes.
priority. And those have been moving as things have happened, whether there's additional costs, additional funding, or whatever it may be. Where we are with this, at this point, is we have about $85,000 that we can allocate to this. There's a grant that Dawn has. There's $35,000 left in one of the solar projects. The problem we have is the next solar project is probably 6 months away. And then there's some park and rec fees that we're anticipating about 4 to 6 months away. So neither one of them do this in time for the spring or the summer, okay? I would think, I don't know if what we would have to do one of the courts first, if we can find another 30,000 maybe to do that, and put the other one off and wait for that 4 months or 6 months until we can do it. It may be August by the time that happens, or I'm not
Meaning
sure.
do the tennis courts now and wait on the basketball court?
Well, but
Or
I
just
think
do one side of the tennis court?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know, obviously, doing them both together is gonna be less expensive, so doing it that way is gonna be more expensive, but I'm not sure where else to take this fund. There's only a couple of $1,000s left in park and rec fees now, maybe 4,000, and I didn't include that in the 85,000. So anything else we do, we're gonna have to come up with $120,000 somewhere if we're doing it together.
Because Land Tech does so much of this work, they wouldn't allow a delayed payment.
I don't know if they would do the work without a purchase order. We could always ask, because we're doing a lot of projects with them. I don't think they would. I don't know
I
if...
wouldn't.
Yeah.
If I was Land Tech, I would.
But then we keep working with Land Tech, so then why don't we get an RFP from others to find out what this costs? Why we only seem to be working with Land Tech because of their government bids. Why not, let's put this out and get some other proposals in here. If we just keep feeding Land Tech, I'd like to see some proposals from other companies.
We can. It's, reason we went with Land Tech, obviously they were on the town of Brookhaven's contract, town of Southampton's, and town of Southold. They've all used them. Land Tech has done a tremendous job by us always.
They are the preeminent company
Yeah.
in ball fields and work like this.
The work they've done in the past is really, it's lasted, and they've done really good
Do that,
jobs.
But they're also 6 months behind on projects. I mean, we've been waiting for Bayberry Park, was supposed to be done in September, and it's March.
Yeah.
And we still haven't begun that project, and why are we only working, I'm just gonna be the devil's advocate
Yeah,
today and
sure.
say, why are we only working with one company and that we're not asking for any RFPs to be done?
There's no reason we can't.
Yeah, I have no issues with that. My objective is to get them done from a reputable company as soon as I can, because each hamlet, as you know, is very demanding, and they should be. So when it didn't matter which courts we started with, the other hamlet would have been put behind. So I definitely understand Wading River. I've been in touch with Sid Bale the last couple of weeks. We've been going over the court, because they're about to get on to Bayberry as soon as the weather breaks, which it's in March, so it should be soon. We're all set with that project, so they'll be in and out.
That money's allocated, no money's being
Purchase
taken
order's
away
done.
from that to assist another project like
No,
this, right?
purchase order's completed. It's just, they have everything lined up. They have the materials now. They're ready to go. So it's just, this is the last court that we have in the shoe, and so that would be it for us for a while.
Do you know when the last time this was done?
The underneath court, way before me.
Right.
This is sort of what the shape when I came, a little bit better than this, and then we put the tiles over it. And that was about 13, 14 years ago. But I don't know when before that. Ken Testa might have the record on that. But it was predates me a lot. Been here 16, 17 years, so.
I know when I was a kid, they would fill this with water in the wintertime, and it was
Yes.
our town ice skating park.
I used to hear that. Jim Janicek used to tell me
Which
that all the time.
can't be good for the underneath, I'm sure, but
So I have a question, and it's not just for your department, but I'm hearing from a lot of departments that there's something due in September and it's still not done. What is the clawback? What do we do when we write these contracts with these people that are going to provide us with services and then are 3 months, 4 months, 5 months late? This wouldn't happen
In private.
in private industry. So why do we allow it to happen? And this is just one instance that this is happening in. What's our clawback?
From my experience with companies like Landtech, they've always done things on time. It's the COVID that pushed back everything. Their response to me, because I didn't just sit down and say, we'll wait 6 months. I was on them all the time. It's the materials and getting the materials, which was the biggest delay with them.
Everybody's having that.
And also,
Yeah.
they did plan on getting the Bayberry done, they just ran out of warm weather. It got cold and that was it.
Well, I have another question to piggyback on Bob's as a business person. If we are waiting on funding from, say, projects for solar, and this money is certain to be paid to us in a period of time, can we borrow money from another account to get this done now and then reimburse a certain account at that later period,
We
just to
could.
get things done?
We'd have to check as to the certainty, but the bottom line is if it doesn't come in, then wherever, we have to be able to take that from, let's say, the general fund. We have to be able to fund that from a line in the general fund that's not allocated for that now.
All right, no, so we'll have a discussion, Bill, see where we can and when things are, and we'll just advise the board if they agree to whichever is the best approach.
what was the cost for this and the basketball court?
$209,000 for both.
Altogether for both?
Yeah, and the basketball court's really just getting a resurfacing, so they're not a lot, but I can always knock it out. If the emergency situation is the tennis court.
Right.
So this is 209, what did you allocate for it initially? So how far off are we? Right?
We don't have anything allocated for it. This was one of several projects, and like I said last year, we were under the assumption we had more money when we pulled the tiles. A lot of things changed, so then we were left with this, we're holding the bag at the tennis court.
And
I mean,
also,
even with the tiles, you wouldn't have pulled the tiles up unless you had some money on hand.
Unless we knew we had the money.
well,
correct.
also, we
So how
couldn't,
much do you have?
we couldn't get a quote without pulling up the tiles. They wouldn't give us a price because they needed to see the surface underneath.
Yeah, it was like the
That
chicken
was-
or the egg,
That
what do
was
we do?
another issue. We had to remove them in order to get the quote, and then it ended up being a lot more than what we hoped.
And
So
we
you-
had
the
other,
But the tiles, I'm just clarifying, so the tiles came up even with no money at hand?
we were under the assumption we had the money allocated for it. So that's when we said, go ahead and pull it, otherwise we wouldn't tell them to pull it. Now, the tiles were wearing down, and we got a lot of complaints on the courts. And again, our goal was to resurface, it wasn't to redo the tennis courts. And we even had other companies come in and, just to get a quote, and they refused to give it to us until we pulled the tiles out.
But there were other projects, like I said before, in the mix at the beginning that we were throwing and reorganizing depending on priority and costs, and those projects increased also. So monies that were available, where we need another couple of thousand here, you see resolutions even, Ray taking money from Park and Recs to finish a project because it came in a little bit higher or something happened, like when you open up the wall and there's something back there that you didn't expect.
I mean, some of this damage looks like it could be a real safety issue at some point, too. Oh, heck, yeah.
Sure it does.
Well, we can't use the courts now,
Absolutely.
yeah. And that's my fear, because we're getting calls on it already. And I don't want to put the nets up as it currently looks right now. So, we're going to have two beautiful courts, Wading River, at Jamesport, but this one is the last one. And we are having, the pickleball courts will be done at Veterans Park. So overall, the town is in very good shape with the courts, it's just this final one.
Okay.
So even if we do an RFP, do we know when Land Tech could start this? If we, let's say we had the money and weren't doing an RFP, can they start this at any given time? Is there a?
As soon as they're done with Bayberry, they said they would jump on this one.
Can they give us an
Bayberry could
idea?
take
Because,
months, right?
No, it'd probably take a couple of weeks to do.
Oh,
Okay, okay,
all right, so we have a time frame. All right, we'll discuss it, Bill.
okay.
We'll look at the budget.
So are we gonna do an RFP, or where are we leaving this at?
We can always do an RFP. You going for it? I don't have a problem with that.
Well, how long would an RFP take,
It can
Bill?
only,
RFPs take a very long time.
No.
yeah, it's gonna take 30 days or more, depending on when we get it out and when we tell them to get it back. The quicker we have them back,
we're
then we can
still-
analyze it, but.
Bayberry's not gonna be done 2 months? When's Bayberry?
No, as
still-
soon as,
As soon as the weather
probably
breaks.
within a week, they'll be.
And Bayberry already has the asphalt down. There's no, they don't have to rip anything up, they can go right in and get started. to build
Yeah,
the
it's the
surface.
basketball court that they'll be ripping
So
up.
this project essentially is still 30 days out. If they're waiting till they complete Bayberry.
Correct,
So
as
that's what I'm
soon
saying.
as,
So with
it's
a 30
it's
day for
really,
an RFP, there's enough time to do it.
The RFP depends on the timing of when we're gonna notice it and how long we give them. In this case, the next board meeting, I guess, we would be able to do that, or we would do that sooner if we get, 3 votes on it, or whatever we needed, to push that forward. The only thing that can happen from an RFP is the price can go down. So, I mean, it's
Sounds
Land Tech
terrible.
giving us this quote. What's that?
That sounds terrible.
Well, what I'm saying is that's what time is gonna cost us, though, whether, and who knows, I'm not saying it will.
Let's
I
just
mean,
go for an
prices can go
RFP,
up, but
see
if
where we
we-
stand. We can't lose.
Yeah.
well, if it does take a while for the RFP, then we're gonna get a lot of people that are very angry that play over there. That's the only thing, I mean, listen, I'll take the calls, I don't mind taking the calls from the residents. I'm just saying that they will definitely start calling. They've already started calling, demanding why it's not done yet.
But doing the RFP doesn't necessarily, I mean, we can also, we'll know what companies for next time if we want to do an RFP for next year, right? So we don't necessarily, that doesn't interfere with moving forward, does it? Doing the RFP?
It has to be on the project, so
Yeah.
we have
But
to
already
wait.
have- Okay, but we already
Yeah.
have, my point is, we already have some of the other projects, so if.
They're working on Bayberry, and so the Bayberry Park still takes them 30 days to complete Bayberry Park. They're not coming into this park until they complete Bayberry, right?
No, they won't take them 30 days
So
to
we're probably
complete
still
Bayberry.
30 days away before they would even arrive at this park. So an RFP, if we could do it within 30 days, doesn't delay any projects.
But you're saying 2 weeks, Ray? that Bayberry
They can get Bayberry done. They did tell Jamesport a week and a half, 2 weeks, and they had to rip up the courts. They don't have to do that with Bayberry. They can conceivably be in Bayberry by next week. If the weather breaks, they're there. Everything's set to go.
That's an if, though.
It all depends on the weather, yeah.
We know
yeah.
how that goes in government work, so.
What's that? They're pretty much done with Veterans Park, because it's just the fence company that's to come in and the concrete curbs.
Right, why did we wait so late? Because now it looks like it's an emergency, you
Um,
know?
You can go on the record, I've been asking this for 6 months. I asked this when they came out, I asked this several times. I've asked for meetings.
Okay.
I begged for meetings. As soon as I knew this was happening, I came to the board. On the record, so.
No, I didn't think that this was a priority before, that's why I'm looking at the last list, I didn't see it as a priority, so. But we are here, we are where we are, and I will talk to Bill. We'll sit down and talk.
Okay, thank you for your
And
time.
again, the project was supposed to be completed, it got cold, and they couldn't finish.
Right, okay.
So,
All right.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Thank you, have a good day, everyone.
Jordan, no, thank you for taking care of, up at EPCAL, I know you took care of the porta potties and everything else up
Oh,
there.
yeah,
When
no
they got-
problem.
It got calls from the alternative transportation, so
Yeah,
thank you.
me
for-
too.
You
No
jumped
problem.
right on it, it's appreciated, thank
No
you.
problem, have a good day.
All right, you take care. Okay, just another quick announcement. We still are offering free COVID-19 rapid tests available this week, and we're going to extend it for another week. We do have interest, and we do have supplies. They can be picked up from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Town Hall reception desk and also at the Aquabog reception desk at the Senior Center. And this is going to conclude our discussion items for today, and we have no items for executive session. And can I have a first and a second to close this work session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, everyone. Please be safe, have a good weekend, and this work session is closed, and have a good day and be safe.